Good afternoon. Are the Patriots ready to make that big jump back into contention this year? Uh, we have questions. We're going to be looking at Drake Maye, Josh McDaniels, the defense. But before we get into that, I just want you to know that you are listening to Patriots No Huddle with Steve Balestrieri and Mike Diabate. So, without further ado, Mike, how are we doing this afternoon?
Oh, I'm doing great, Steve. It is great to be back on the microphone with you. Special shout out to our good friend, the third member of our triumvirate here, Derek Havens, who is enjoying some well-deserved R&R. Derek going to be back with us next week, folks. So, fear not. Derek is not going anywhere, but just enjoying a well-deserved vacation. But Steve and I are right here. We're taking you into the weekend, talking about the biggest stories today, Steve, on both sides of the ball. Drake Maye, Josh McDaniels, the Patriots' impressive front seven, especially those edge rushers. We're going to discuss all of that here today. So sit back, folks, settle in. Again, it is great to be back on the microphone with you, bud, and I can't wait to get into this one because even though it's that vacation period for the New England Patriots, there's no days off on Patriots No Huddle. We continue to dissect these stories, and there's always a lot to talk about here in Foxborough, buddy.
Yeah, and it feels like an old Friday with your old podcast because
Yeah, it does.
that's when the two of us usually got together and talked about stuff that was going on with the Patriots, and then with a couple of movie references thrown here and there.
Of
So
course. I'm sure The Godfather is going to be thrown in. 50th anniversary of the release of Jaws this weekend. I
yeah,
always want to give a tip of the cap and a nod of the gods to the guys over at Patriots Unfiltered. They are the godfathers, not to use a colloquialism there, of Jaws, but we do pretty well with dropping those references as well, Steve. So I can't guarantee one of them won't get dropped over this podcast.
yeah, as always, and it was always a lot of fun. Of course, we would always mention a couple of other gangster movies, and if our good friend Murph is watching today, I'm sure he'll have a thought or two on those. So,
Oh, without question. You want to talk about Godfather of mob movies? There he is, right there. The Don himself will, I'm sure, enlighten us with his wisdom and counsel, not just when it comes to mob movies, but when it comes to your New England Patriots, folks. So, yeah, like I said before, sit back, settle in, and let the two Patriots paisans here take you into the weekend.
yeah. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
Drake May and Josh McDaniels. Uh, you know, when this season was coming about, that was a question how they were going to gel, how Drake May would fit into Josh McDaniel's system, and there's legitimate questions to that, but so far so good. I think, especially the way the spring workouts ended, it's a reason for optimism moving forward. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are right in line with yours, Steve. Look, the thing that's impressing me the most about Drake May this season is that he's learning from his mistakes, but he's catching these mistakes early. He's learning from his own performance on the field, and he's taking his own initiative in order to correct them. And I think that latter part is really what Patriots fans should be hooking on to if they're thinking about the type of growth that Drake May's had from last year to this year. Look, Drake is in his second year. He's still going to be making mistakes. Those rookie mistakes don't automatically go away. He'll make fewer of them. Josh is going to be there to make sure that he makes as few mistakes as possible. He's going to drill that into him, especially over the course of the next few weeks when it comes to training camp. So, yeah, he will be sharper. He will be less inclined to maybe go off script when he doesn't need to, because Josh is going to be there to give him that wisdom and counsel and ground him. But the thing that I love about what I'm seeing from Drake this year is crisper footwork. I think he's looking at trying to develop solid relationships with all of his receivers. Yes, there is still the penchant for him to go back to Hunter Henry. I don't expect that to go anywhere. But at the same time, you also look at the type of relationship he's trying to build now with Demario Douglas. The same thing that you're seeing with guys like Stephon Diggs, the same things that you're seeing with guys like Kyle Williams. these are going to be his go-to targets, and he's going to have to ride these guys in order to be able to reach his full potential. What better way than to lay that groundwork in rookie minicamp, in minicamp, in OTAs? That really is where these things come alive, and I think you're going to see it really come alive in training camp. As the old saying goes, buddy, you ain't seen nothing yet, but what we've seen so far has been very good from Drake Maye.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think with Josh McDaniels, his favorite target might, you know, be a different player every week, depending on who they are
Mm-hmm.
playing, depending upon the opponent. So, when I'm looking at this and, you know, one week it could be Travion Henderson, the next week, Kyle
Absolutely.
Williams. Another week it'll be Hunter Henry and Diggs, and that's the beauty of Josh McDaniels' offense is that when it's working correctly, you know, every week you're going to be focusing on somebody else, and that's always a good thing. I mean, you have to keep your opponents guessing. Granted, he's still going to go to Hunter Henry a lot every
Mm-hmm.
week because that's his security blanket, and every big quarterback has those. The other thing that I really like so far is the fact that in his second year, he has a lot more comfort in the locker room. He's taking more of a leadership position, and you've been down there
Mm-hmm.
and you've seen this. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you're a Patriots fan, you love seeing that. And look, what goes on behind closed doors, things that we're not privy to, is really, I think, where Drake is making the biggest strides. And players that I've talked to, coaches that I've talked to, these guys all acknowledge that this kid has come in with a responsibility on his shoulders that he's welcoming. He likes that proverbial monkey on his back, so to speak. He likes to have that responsibility put on him. And he's not shying away from the history this team has. He's not dwelling on it, but he's not shying away from it. And this is something that I really appreciate in a quarterback that's coming in to such a successful franchise. And let's face it, Steve, over the course of the last 25 years, no professional football team has been more successful than our New England Patriots. These are the standards that teams are setting. I understand that Kansas City's doing their thing right now. Maybe when it's all said and done, they might be right up there with what the Pats have done the last quarter century. But right now, that gold standard still resides in Foxborough. Drake May's not trying to erase it. He doesn't go, well, that was in the past and I'm just being me and I'm being, yeah, there's an element of that to what he says and to what he does on the field. But the latter part of minicamp, when we had the opportunity to speak to him and we understood, or I should say, he understood the expectations that are put on his shoulders. He welcomed it. He didn't shy away from it. He said, the Patriots are used to winning. That's what we're trying to get back to. That's what I want to get back to. He understands that there's an element of the fan base that wants to win again. And I think he realizes that's mostly his responsibility. Let's face it, it's a quarterback league. As much as we want to talk about the players' weapons around him and the new look defense and Mike Vrabel being the head coach, you're going to go as far as your quarterback is capable of taking you in this league. And Drake Maye is someone that understands that. He rises to the challenge, and I think you're going to continue to see him rise to the challenge each and every week. Once again, fundamentals are not going to be perfect. There will be mistakes made. Stumblings will happen. But for the most part, this kid is ready to make that next step. I think there are going to be fewer mistakes this year than you saw last year. And because of that, it's going to help this team emerge from where they need to be. So that example, even if you're not a vocal guy at first, is going to be set, and players are going to follow that. Veterans are going to be more willing to accept you as a leader. And if veterans are going to be accepting of it, then that means that the players in the locker room, the young players, the rookies, are going to follow Drake Maye because of the example he sets. That is so important for a team looking to find its identity. I can't wait to see what this team does on the field this year, knowing that Drake is one of not only their on-field leaders, but also their locker room leaders and their inspirational leaders in everything they need to do.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm really looking forward to, and we started to see it a little bit at the end of the spring workouts. There's going to be a lot of new faces on this offense.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of new starters. I mean, you can look at the offensive line and say, you might have 4 different starting linemen
Mm.
on the offensive line this year, and then you go into the receivers and uh, running backs. I mean, there's a lot of new faces, and my worry was how was the offense going to gel together, and granted, you have all these new faces. You have a new system being put in place for the guys who were here a year ago. And, how are all the pieces going to fit together? So far, and I want to get your take on this because you've watched it firsthand. So far, it looks like, there's a process that's not going to come together overnight, but it seems like they're getting uh, a bit of comfort in this system and a little bit of confidence.
Without question. And I think a lot of the credit of that goes to Josh McDaniels. It goes to Mike Vrabel. It goes to the coaches that are surrounding these guys that are trying to give them everything they need in order to be successful on the field. That also includes Doug Marrone with the offensive line and the work that he's doing in trying to get all these guys on the same page. McDaniels ultimately is the guy that the offense is going to go through. And I think everyone is starting to see what this offense may look like now with a more enlightened Josh McDaniels, maybe someone who's coming in with a little bit more modernization to his game. But Steve, you and I both know he loves that Erhard-Perkins system. There is still a lot of elements in the system that he's going to run up here in New England. So for anyone thinking that it's going to be drastically different, yeah, it's not going to be drastically different. It's going to have some of those elements, but ultimately, I think what you're seeing now is someone who is understanding of the type of talent that he has around him, and what do I need to do to maximize the talent around me, not just Drake Maye as my quarterback, but you mentioned Travion Henderson as a running back. What can I do to get his dynamic skill set involved in the offense sooner rather than later? Someone like a Kyle Williams who comes in with a lot of promise and a lot of potential, but needs that type of seasoning in order to be able to be an adequate pro. That's what Josh is going to have to figure out. He's going to have to lean on his veterans, guys like Stephon Diggs. And I know a lot of people are talking about maybe Kendrick Bourne finding himself on the outside looking in. I think Kendrick is going to be an important part of this offense this year. For anyone looking to see him jettisoned, I think you're going to need veterans in that locker room that are going to be able to bring this team forward. And Kendrick, to me, is one of those guys who can do it. So, and
He's
again,
such an electric member of the locker room too. I
oh
mean,
yeah, he truly is. He really, really, and truly is. And I've always found myself, fortunate to either be in a media scrum with Kendrick or to watch him on field and to see how he reacts and how he interacts with his players and his fellow teammates. It really is something great to watch, and I think that is what ultimately may give him a leg up on the competition in earning a roster spot this year. But getting back to guys like Maye and his relationship with McDaniels. Ashton Grant, I think, is someone who's going to play in an incredible role this year in bridging the gap between the wise old sage, and I say that with Josh only being a few years older than me. He's going to be that voice. He's going to be the Yoda in that locker room. But Ashton's going to be someone that's going to, I think, help to bridge that gap between he and someone like Drake Maye, or maybe even Josh Dobbs at times. I like what I see from Ashton as quarterbacks coach thus far. He's helping to lead his guys onto the field as well. So this offense right now is in a very I don't want to say infancy stage, but there are seedlings right now of what this team could start looking like. Once the pads come on, I think you're really going to start to see this offense come alive, because then we're going to know what type of offensive line the Patriots are dealing with. And for as much as people want to give credit to the offensive skill positions, you don't have the line behind it, it's not going to matter. My good friend Murph said that ad nauseum each and every time we took the microphone together, and I cannot agree with him more. It's going to be all about what that line can do to protect Drake, to give him the tools he needs to be able to succeed.
yeah, absolutely, and that's the big $64,000 question, right? Is how will the offensive line be able to hold up? I know um, some people aren't thrilled with the addition of Will Campbell,
Hmm.
and as Derek has so pointed out many times, he can't tie his shoes because his arms are so short. But you know, um, he played in the SEC. He went against some of the best pass rushers that are already in the league or entering the league this year, and he always held his own. So we'll have to see, but that's still a question until the pads do come on. But I love the addition of Morgan Moses.
Absolutely.
And as well as on the field, he's always been a steady, versatile, player that, he always answers the bell. He's always there. And I love what he's doing off the field. He's kind of holding court with the other offensive linemen. And, from what we've been reading and hearing, and, that's like a normal, everyday occurrence. And I love the fact that they're all getting together and they're comparing notes and he's holding court like that, because I think that's a sign of an offensive line that's coming together.
Without question. So well said. And I think Morgan's addition to this team, especially to this line, maybe isn't getting the proper credit that it should in this area. And I guess that's as much my fault as anyone else who covers and writes about the Patriots on a daily basis. This guy coming in with his ability to take over a locker room, to lead by example, to inspire his teammates, and not only get the inspiration and the respect from his teammates that you want, but also the likability that he has and just that magnetism that he has about being able to befriend teammates on a very quick basis. Morgan is someone that I really, really was happy to see the Patriots bring in. Simply for, not just for those reasons, but for all the reasons that he's going to give to you on the field. And again, when the pads come on, you're going to start to see how valuable this guy is over on the corner and the perimeter of that offensive line. But at the same time, his knowledge, his being battle tested, his having spent time in organizations like the Jets, like the Ravens, no nonsense, no grit, no nonsense, gritty type organizations that know what it takes to be able to win. I know some Patriots fans are probably snickering right now and going, yeah, you just said the Jets. Well, yeah, the Jets offensive line had players that knew how to be able to win. The problem with the Jets was, I think, a little deeper than the talent that they had on face value. But go back to the work that he did with the Ravens and what he was able to do in the early part of his career. Morgan is such a great fit for what this team wants to do offensively when it comes to the line. I really do enjoy seeing his fit here. So yeah, that definitely is one of the better additions that this team has had in the offseason. And I only think it's going to continue to pay dividends as the years go on. You need those guys that, Steve, have been on that wall. You need them on that wall. Morgan Moses is one of those guys that's going to be on that wall, and the Patriots are going to be better because of it.
It's a Jack Nicholson, reference right there. So
Got to
that's
bring
our first
that one
movie
out on a
reference.
Friday, Steve. It's important. I would say you're goddamn right I did, and I guess I just did.
Oh, boy. Okay, so let's move on to the defense. But before we do that, we'll take a very short break for podcast purposes, and, we'll let Ian plug his, ad in there. But we'll be right back, and then we'll jump over to the defense. Want to talk some linebackers. And we're back here on Patriots No Huddle, the official podcast of PatsFans.com. We encourage all of you to leave us a review, and check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, and it helps us get some traction in the podcast rankings, which, according to somebody, I forget who did it, the top 40 podcasts of the Patriots, we were recently rated as number 12. So we're starting to move up in the world.
Absolutely. Moving on up.
Yeah.
And we thank each and every one of you for all of your support to Patriots No Huddle. I want to say that this is, a budding new endeavor and we're starting from the ground up, but I was very fortunate to come into a well-oiled machine here with Steve and with Derek. And of course, I definitely want to give a tip of the cap to Russ Goldman, who did a great job up here for so many years with Patriots 4th and 2. It's an honor to join these guys on the microphone each and every week. So I'm honored to be a part of this new venture, and look forward to seeing what the future can bring here on Patriots No Huddle. So thank you all for all of your support, because you make us what we are. And without you, we don't have a pod. So thank you once again. And I'm glad you enjoy the content, because we're just getting started. Just like this segment, Steve, we're only getting started. The best is still yet to come. Buddy.
That's right. A little Sinatra there. The best is yet to come. And you know, next month, so I forget the exact date, but 15 years ago in July, Russ, Derek, myself, and Damien, we started this podcast, and it's amazing that we're still doing it 15 years later. So we'll have to get Ian on for the 15-year anniversary show.
Absolutely.
I know Ian doesn't like to, lend himself to the in front of the cameras, but he'll have to make an exception for this.
Yeah, Ian Logue, folks, does an amazing job of cutting us up, putting us together, and making it look like a nice, pretty package out to all of you, wherever you get your podcasts, either on YouTube or on Spotify. Ian is the brains behind everything that happens here. So tip of the cap to him as well. And yeah, we'll get him to do at least one on-camera appearance for the 15th anniversary. I think that's only more than appropriate, buddy.
We'll have to, tie him up and drag him here, but yeah, we'll get him on. So let's talk about some linebackers, because that's my favorite position.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots linebacker room is going to look vastly different this year as well. I mean, a couple of the guys are now gone, including Jawan Bentley, which was a little bit of a surprise this spring. Jelani Tavai is banged up, but they've made some really good additions this year, and I'm so excited to see how this is all going to play out.
Oh, without question. I mean, you want to talk about a trio of exciting young linebackers that can come in and really, I think, harken back to the early days of the Patriots dynasty, where the linebackers were really the backbone of that defense, which was solid in the secondary, very good up front. But those linebackers made things happen. Robert Spillane, Jack Gibbons, Christian Ellis. I'm really looking forward to seeing all these guys come together this year under the Patriots banner and really make things happen. A lot of speed, very young, very agile, and they're able to go sideline to sideline. And I think that's something that Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams have been stressing, especially with this new talk about an aggressive type defense, where you want to see not only violence, but also the ability to be able to hang with some of the younger, faster offenses that they're going to be seeing in this league. This defense is built to stop guys like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It really, really is. I wrote about this for Sports Illustrated a couple of days ago, and that the Patriots may be in the midst of a linebacker renaissance. I think you might see something of the sort on the field in Foxborough this year.
I saw that. It was a great piece, folks. Check that out.
Thank you.
For Mike's work on SI. As I said just a few moments ago, linebackers are my favorite position to watch and talk about. And that article was spot on. So yeah, definitely check that out. And talking about Spillane, especially, he didn't make that big of a splash at the time of his signing. I think at the end of the year, we're going to be looking back at that particular signing and say, Spillane was a really great addition. Just by the manner in which he plays, I think he's a perfect fit for this fast, violent, and physical defense, that Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams want to run. I know in the spring, it kind of takes away from what he can do because the pads aren't on, and that's where he thrives. But what have you seen from him, so far this spring down there?
Oh, from Spillane. Well, yeah, but the same things that you're hearing about Robert as a member of the Las Vegas Raiders and everything that he did in terms of leading on the field, in terms of leading by example, in terms of understanding his role right off the bat. You're seeing elements of that. Again, once the pads come on, it's going to be a lot easier to evaluate these guys as a unit because you're going to start to see them work as a unit. But in one-on-one, this guy is tenacious. He will not give up. He will not yield. And again, he's got the combination of speed and power that I think is going to help him succeed when it comes to being a focal point of this Patriots defense. One of the first things we heard about Robert when he signed here was this is a Patriots type signing. This is a Vrabel type signing. This is Mike's guy. So he's going to go with what he knows. He's going to go with what he believes is going to help him to install his type of defense here in New England. To me, I don't think you can do better than what he's done with bringing Robert Spillane on board.
Yeah, the day Spillane came in to sign, he had his wife and child with him, and I think the person that was smiling the most was Mike Vrabel. You know, I thought Vrabel was like really excited to see him come in, and I am so excited to see what he can do once September rolls around. But I also want to talk about Gibbons and Ellis. I mean, Gibbons is kind of an X factor to me. He again not a big splash with his signing, but I think working in this system with Vrabel and Williams and their linebackers coach, I think he's going to be another guy that really blossoms under this. Can you hear me, Mike?
Steve, are you there?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Gentlemen, I apologize. I absolutely apologize to all of our listeners out there. Not quite sure what happened or where you might have lost me, but I just realized a few moments ago that I was kind of speaking into the void. I was in no
Yeah.
man's land, Steve.
Okay. I was talking about Gibbons and his fit for this defense, and I believe that by the end of the season, we'll be looking back upon him as a really important signing, this spring.
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to Spillane, when it comes to Gibbons, I think all of these guys that you're seeing in this linebacker crew right now are not only adept and physically capable of running the type of defense or facilitating the type of defense that Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams want to run, but they're all quick studies. These guys pick up on the playbook. They know the ins and outs of this type of a defense, and that's going to really matter when it comes to installing this new look of this aggression, this violent type of defense that Terrell Williams wants to run. Because not only is it just the ability to get after the quarterback and put pressure on the quarterback and stop the run, but it's also knowing where you need to be, when you need to be there, and what it's going to take to get you in position to be able to make plays on every single snap. One thing that I loved about the early days of the Patriots dynasty was the front seven and that ability that they had to bring in guys that always knew their role and did their job, whether it be, someone like a Brian Cox or a Roman Pfeiffer, early on. These guys knew where they needed to be. They automatically understood the assignment. They got it before anyone else. And they helped teach the younger guys that maybe didn't have the same type of pro football savvy to get into position on every snap, on every play. I'm seeing it with Spillane, definitely. This guy has natural leadership ability written all over him. He really does remind me of a young Mike Vrabel in that regard, because he does respond to players and players respond to him. And I think that's something that the Patriots are going to really lean on this year, instituting a new type of defense. I'm seeing it with guys like Gibbons as well. His experience under Mike Vrabel is going to really help. And the elevation of the game that Christian Ellis has come to Foxborough with this year is so important. He's going to be a name to watch during training camp. I promise you that.
That's those are the type of things I absolutely love to hear, because I think they've traditionally had the bigger, more physical linebackers, but I think you're going to see them flying around the field a lot more. One of the other guys that kind of under the radar right now is Marte Mapu, who
Hmm.
I think, I think this is the best move for him is moving him to linebacker. I was so glad to hear Vrabel say that they were moving him to linebacker because I think, his skill set will play right into that. He's not the biggest guy, 6'3", 230, 235, maybe, maybe a 235. Um, but with his ability to play all over different positions and with his speed, I think he's going to fit right in.
Oh, without question. Marte, I think, is a natural linebacker. I think that's where he was most comfortable when he was in college, especially on the weak side. That's where I think he's going to be the best fit. And in that regard, the Patriots can use as much help up there as you could possibly imagine, and maybe even being an assistant type, a help to someone like a Harold Landry that I think is going to be a good fit there as well. Listen, Marte Mapu has the abilities and he has the hard hitting nature to succeed in this defense. The one thing that you need is have him be in position to make plays. And I don't think you've seen him feel comfortable enough in a Patriots defense, whether it be his rookie season or whether it be last year, to really fully showcase what he can do. He's going to get that chance this year if he is a full-time linebacker. And I guess according to the reports and according to what we're seeing, especially what we've seen on the field, everything looks to be falling into line. If that stays the way it is right now, then you're going to finally see Marte Mapu, I think, come into his own. And a lot of people are leaving him off of 53-man roster projections simply because I think they forget just what type of skill set he brings to the table. I wasn't one of them. I think Marte has an ability to come to this league, to come to this team this year and be a significant part of what the Patriots want to do in that front seven. He fits that mold of a leaner, younger linebacker that can play a hybrid position. Those guys do traditionally very well under the type of defense that Mike Vrabel and his crew want to run this year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, this defense I think is going to look a lot different. And Chris Godwin, Stephen Mike,
Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
thanks for
thanks for
checking
watching.
in with
Thanks for
us,
listening.
Chris.
Always appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, and hope everything is great across the pond. So
Yeah, it's warm over there across the pond. Talk to another good friend of the program, our good friend and business partner, Miss Claire Cooper, says that yeah, they're experiencing some hot weather out there in the UK. So yeah, we're about to get that up here in the Northeast. Apparently, a heat wave with a vengeance is how they're talking about that the next 3 days here in New England. So yeah,
yeah,
stay cool, everyone.
over 100 degrees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh yeah. Yep.
that's even hotter than it's going to be down here. So
Yeah, absolutely. You got to make sure that the air conditioners are running well, Steve.
yeah, and with that, let's move on to the other part of that front seven, the edge and the pass rush, because again, they have some really intriguing new players. Harold Landry, they brought in. I think Keon White in his, you know, was it fourth year that he's going into? I think he's going to blossom under this defense. Brady Swinson, I really like that addition, and the guy that a lot of people are kind of forgetting is Chason,
Mm, absolutely.
Caleb Von Chason. So you know, what do you think about this new look pass rush that they're going to field this year?
I'm glad you mentioned Jason because he was one of the guys that I was most looking forward to watching heading into minicamp because you start to understand where some of these guys are going to stand out. You knew Williams is going to get a whole lot of looks, and he deserves them. You know, a lot of eyes are going to be on Barmore, and I think he is the key cog in all of this. And I'll get into that in just a moment. You mentioned Keon White. Keon White is getting a lot of eyes on him as well because this is the type of football he was brought in to facilitate. But Chiazon is someone that was involved in every play that involved rushing the passer. Every single time you saw the Patriots get into formation and try to get pressure on the quarterback, simulated pressure on the quarterback, that is,
Mhm.
Jason was right in the middle of everything. And that tells me that the Patriots have high hopes for him. He's someone that they want to get in there. They want to get him acclimated. They want to make sure that he's comfortable in just about any setting and any situation. So the fact that he was getting early looks, I think, spells well for him in terms of what we'll see from him on the field when it comes to training camp. Now, there's always a double-edged sword to that. People tell you, well, if he's getting a lot of looks in the early part of camp, that may mean that they're not sure what they have in him and they want to see what skill set. I don't think that's indeed the case. I think they have enough film on Chieson. I think they've been experienced enough with working with him to know what they've got. And I think that that is something that is going to be really interesting when it comes to the Patriots this year, because these guys are sack machines. They're used to getting after the quarterback. They know how to get home. For so many years, we've been talking, Steve, whether it be on this podcast, on others, about the Patriots just simply not having the might to get home. I don't think they're going to have that problem this year. I think you're going to see them go back to the tandem days of Matthew Judon, Joshua Uche, where they were getting home and collecting a good number of sacks. This team could be a lot more fun to watch than even that. And those guys were playing at the top of their game. That was a lot of fun to watch that defense that year. This year, I think they can be better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when the way I'm looking at it, and you mentioned the two guys, Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. With those guys in the middle pushing the pocket,
Right.
quarterbacks are not going to be able to step up. So your edge rushers are going to get a better shot at getting these quarterbacks under pressure, getting the sacks, doing everything that we hope that they will do. So I think this defense, it's really primed to I look at Harold Landry and I think he can still bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, you know, uh, the rookie from LSU, Swinton. I really like this kid. He might be your designated pass rusher, just like a sub package guy,
Right.
but that's okay because
Absolutely.
because your early down guys are going to need a breather here and there, and if you bring in a guy like him, then that obvious passing situation, I think that's great. And the question I have for you is: a lot of people are writing off Anthony Jennings.
Mm.
Do you think he sticks around in the new regime?
It's a tough question for me to answer because, on its face, and if you look at what Jennings brings to the table, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I think that his skill set can succeed in this type of a defense. I don't see him at the same disadvantage of someone like a Juwan Bentley, who I really thought was just a bad fit for what the Patriots were trying to do. And I think they realized that. I think Bentley getting the opportunity to go elsewhere will help him. And I think that it allows the Patriots to get younger, leaner, and meaner at that position. Jennings is someone that I do believe has the skill set to succeed here. He's got sideline to sideline speed. He's very good against the run, and I think can be an asset against the pass. So if that be the case, I keep Anthony Jennings here, and I don't really think twice about it. I think his experience in New England allows him maybe the benefit of the doubt over someone that may come in and try to assert or try to take his position away. Here's where I get worried about Anthony. We didn't see a whole lot of him when it came to aligning with the first team unit during minicamp. Now, again, that may just be because the Patriots want to see what they have in some of the newer guys, try to get them acclimated, try to get them used to playing here. I think we'll learn a lot more about how the Patriots feel about Anthony Jennings when the pads come on. Is he someone that's repping with the first couple of units? Is he getting the looks that he needs to be able to showcase his talent as a run defender and a pass rusher? If you're not seeing that right off the bat, yeah, I may start to wonder if maybe the Pats are seeing something we're not seeing here, and thinking that maybe his skill set is better utilized in a different system. To me, I still think he brings enough where I would give him a second and third look and make sure that he's a part of my unit. But again, I'm a fan of Anthony just like you are. I don't want to necessarily see him jettisoned because I think there's so much talent that the Patriots have yet to unlock there. But um, again, as Derek has said several times, and as our Patriots filtered, friends have said several times, look at what they do, not what they say.
Say,
And to me, I think that's going to be telltale. Watch the first few days in training camp, especially the first few days of padded practices. I think that's going to tell you a lot about how they feel about a lot of linemen and a lot of front seven guys in the defense, and even on the offensive line too. I don't want to stray too much from the formula here. I know we're focusing on defense, but if you're wondering what the Patriots' plans are for the line on both sides of the ball, padded practice is going to tell the tale, and I think it's going to tell it quickly.
yeah, and that that's always the toughest position to watch in training camp because they always push them so far to the rear in the practice field. I remember
It's
being
true.
down there, and even with binoculars, you're trying to see what's going on, and it was really tough to watch, because your field of view was so limited back there. But that's going to be a really key area because I think with guys like Barmore and Williams, you know, they're going to set the tone. And, even maybe even Jennings with those guys starts to find his pass rush moves a little bit more. I know
Mm,
that's something they want him to do, but
right.
I was curious of that because I've always been a fan of his. Um, he does set the edge really well. He's a
He
very good
does.
tackler, excellent in the running game. But he needs to bring more in the pass rush department, and maybe that comes with some of the guys that they've brought in.
Yeah.
So
And
but
he does have a quick enough first step to be able to, I think, assimilate into that role. He just needs the opportunity. He needs the chance. If he's going to get that early, I think he's going to prove to the Patriots his worth in this defense. And I think it's going to make it very difficult for them to cut him. But again, that's going to be telltale. Keep a sharp eye, as I like to say, bud.
yeah, they keep a sharp eye on it. Is there a player on this front seven that you think is going to be a sleeper?
Ooh, um,
As Derek is so fond of saying, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I think it's tough to say that there's a sleeper because I think so much has been made of this defense that every single member of this front seven has had an opportunity to shine in some way, shape, or form. We talked about a couple earlier on. I think Jack Gibbons has the opportunity to be a sleeper here, maybe someone who plays a much larger role than fans are anticipating. This is a very cerebral, very smart football player that has the ability, I think, to be a very significant player in this front seven. And his experience under Mike Vrabel, to me, is going to be uh, something to keep an eye on because he had obviously his best seasons under Mike, one of the very few coaches he's played for in the league. But Mike was able to unlock something in him and really, I think, tap into an ability that maybe even Jack didn't know he had. And I say that with every reverence to Jack. I'm a big fan of his, and I love to watch him play football. I really can't wait to see what he does with the pads on. So he may be one to watch. I think Mapp has a chance to maybe be a sleeper in this
Mm.
front seven. I think he's someone that does have the skill set to play that hybrid linebacker role. I believe this is the role he was intended to play when he came in and first was drafted by the New England Patriots. He'll get that chance, and I want to see that hard hitting ability really unleashed in a Terrell Williams defense. So maybe those two guys have a chance to be a sleeper, in this front seven. And always keep an eye on Swinson. Like you said before, this is a kid that has wisdom beyond his years. He could make an impact sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and Chris has an interesting question, and I'll let you go first.
Do you think this could be a top 10 D? I think they have the makings of it. I think a lot is going to have to come together. Chris, I think it's an excellent question. I think we're all wondering that. To me, I think the key element in whether or not the Patriots have a top 10 defense this year is going to lie on the shoulders of Christian Barmore. And based on what I've seen this year, the limited sample size of what we've seen during practices, Christian looks like he's ready to take that mantra once again. He is so important in this defense, folks. I don't think maybe he gets enough credit for being the important cog in the wheel that we all see in the media, that we all see here in Patriots Nation, but nationally, I think you're going to get a chance to see just how important Christian Barmore is to this defense. His ability to take on the double team from O linemen or offensive players that are trying to block and are trying to make life difficult. Just go back and watch some of what he did when he freed up guys like Matthew Judon and Joshua Uche to get after the quarterback. He's got so much talent around him right now, and pass rushing talent, that if he's able to do that once again this year, you're going to see guys like Harold Landry unlocked. You're going to see Keon White reach his potential. You're going to see Milton Williams reach new heights in this defense. Those are just three of the guys that the Patriots have that could be elite pass rushers in this defense if Christian is doing his job up front. And let's not forget about the job he's able to do himself of getting after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So to me, if he can play even 75% of what we saw in his best season a couple of years ago, yeah, I think you're looking at a defense that has the potential to be top 10 when all is said and done. But again, a lot is going to have to break their way for that to happen.
Yeah, and that is a great question, Chris. Uh, I'm with you on this. I think the potential is definitely there. Um, Again, there's a lot of new faces, so they appeared to be starting to gel a little bit through the spring. Training camp and preseason will go a long way toward that. I know in preseason, a lot of the guys might not play much, but again, you're going to see the pieces start to come together.
Right.
I think, like you said, Barmore is a huge key to this. And I think the pass rush is going to be much, much better this year. I'm really excited. And let's not forget the secondary. The secondary was already pretty good. I think it's going to be excellent now. I think they legitimately have one of the top starting cornerback tandems, on the outside with Christian Gonzalez. You know, I mean, let's face it, this defense on paper looks so much better than the unit last year. And, you know, Gonzalez, Davis, I mean, I think, and it seems like, I don't forget, they want to go with like a big slot, maybe a guy like Alex Austin or Isaiah Bolden. That's going to be a different look for them as well. But, I really like the moves they've made with this defense, and I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it really will be. I'm glad you mentioned Alex Austin. Again, someone I wrote about just recently for SI. And I found myself writing that up and saying, wow, really, it's such a wealth of riches for the Patriots in the secondary for me to be considering Alex Austin either on the roster bubble or on the cusp of making this roster. This is a guy that really should be on without any question for the reasons that you just said. He's someone that can play the perimeter, but he can play a big slot, and I think he can do it very effectively. Marcus Jones is someone who stepped up and made big plays throughout mini camp and proved that he is more than capable of playing the slot when the Patriots want to go smaller and maybe a little faster in that regard. Isaiah Bolden is a speed weapon that I don't think has been unleashed yet, and someone that can really turn some heads in training camp this year, putting the problems that he had a couple of years ago behind him and the injury issues and the problem that he had, obviously with the concussion a couple of years ago. He's ready to make that leap. So there's so many guys on this roster that can really, I think, turn heads in a big way. And it's going to be very difficult for this coaching staff to be able to cut these guys down and make a 53-man product without losing some talent. Unfortunately, that will be the case this year. But the Patriots have to be very confident in the guys that they have out there on the field this year to put together a 53-man roster that can really make strides from where they were 1 year ago, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, have you heard any inkling of when Terrell Williams may be actually back in the building?
Well, the last we talked to Mike Vrabel, the final day of media availability for minicamp, he said that he was progressing and they expected him back soon. Now, does that mean he'll be back in the building before the players start to report for training camp? We're still not sure about that yet. Does that mean that even he may make his return after the players have begun to report to training camp? Still not quite sure what soon means, but one does get the impression that he'll be back sooner rather than later. So I don't think this is something that will extend into training camp. If it is, it'll only be probably maybe a day or two delay before Terrell Williams gets back. But I expect him to be back for the majority of training camp. This is his defense now. And as much as Mike Vrabel is the guy in charge, Terrell Williams needs to be the voice that they're all listening to unilaterally. And I think Terrell understands that, and I think he will be in New England sooner rather than later. So, for those of you looking to see Terrell out on the field, I think you'll get your wish pretty quickly when training camp begins in late July.
That's excellent news. I mean, yeah, and I'm sure Mike is going to try to tell him to take it a little bit easy at first.
Absolutely.
But he's cut from the same cloth that Vrabel is, so I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to get back on the field with his players. But we want to see him stay healthy. So
absolutely.
So we get down into our final thoughts. I really like the moves that they've made with the defense this year. Yeah, there still are questions of obviously until the pads come on and we start seeing them play against opponents, joint practices, and preseason games.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's always going to be an issue, right? I mean, that's just the way it always goes, regardless of even when they were winning championships. Every year we'd say the same thing until we see it on the field. Then we'll go from there. But any final thoughts, Mike?
No, I think you summed it up very well, Steve. I think for Patriots fans that are looking to see the difference between last year's team and this year's team, um, I don't want to set unrealistic expectations and say that this team is going to be uberly more talented than it was a year ago. There will be an increase in talent level. There's no question about it. Just by nature of the guys they've brought in, this Patriots team will be a more talented, more fun to watch team. I think they can surprise some people. I think this team can be better than maybe some of the national pundits are giving it credit for. I think the optimism that you're seeing from the local writers on the beat that are giving you their impressions of the New England Patriots early on should be healed. It should be listened to because I think so many of members of Patriots Nation, so many fans are clamoring for something to bite onto and people to say, okay, well, yeah, you know what? This team is ready to make that jump. Yeah, I think they are ready to make that jump. But to me, the biggest difference you're going to see between last year's team and this year's team is discipline. I think you're going to see a team that knows where it needs to be, understands the assignment, knows the playbook, and is on the same page. Now, whether or not that translates to a whole lot more wins is still to be seen. There's still going to be mistakes that will be made. There's still players and there's still chemistry that needs to be formed in order for this team to say, yes, we've turned the corner. We're ready to go out there and contend now. But the one thing that I think you'll see this year from the Patriots is a lot more uniformity and a lot more discipline. Two things they were in desperate need of last year. Mike Vrabel's going to make sure that when they step out there on the field, those guys are all on the same page. And based on that, anything can happen on any given Sunday, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was you who wrote because I'm trying to remember where I read it from, but I think it was you. I'm going to give you credit for it that you're seeing a lot less of the pre-snap penalties
Yes.
this spring. So that's a good sign so early in the process. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I did write that. I was not the only one to write that. Several of my colleagues did point that out. So I don't want to take full credit for that. But yeah, I mean, it's palpable. You can see it on the field that this team is not committing so many egregious, problems right from the get-go. And that's going to lead to better play on the field. And better play on the field can lead to more competitive games. And the more competitive the Patriots are in these games, the more chances they have to pile up wins. So again, there's a lot of reason for optimism, and the little things are what give birth to the reasons why Patriots fans can be optimistic heading into this season.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, to this question, I kind of like the way they do it with the mini camps and the spring workouts because they ease them way into,
Mhm.
playing football, and we don't want to see any more injuries. So,
Yeah.
um, but that's a question for another time. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Mike, before we go, I just wanted to thank everyone for listening. Thank you for being here with me today, my friend. It's like old
My
times,
pleasure.
the two of us on a Friday, and we didn't mention The Godfather once today, so we'll have to rectify that another time. But you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Well, in the spirit of mentioning The Godfather, Steve, you want to always keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, but you want to always keep the Patriots close, but keep Patriots no huddle closer because it'll bring you that much more involved, that much more intricately involved in the inner workings of this New England Patriots team under Mike Vrabel in 2025. So, on behalf of my good friend Don Bellistreri, who is my Patriots paisan and someone I am always, always glad to share the microphone with. And again, a tip of the cap to the vacationing Derek Havens this week. Would definitely miss Derek, and we're looking forward to bringing him back into the fold in just a little bit. But bottom line, folks, we thank each and every one of you who take time out of your busy schedules to make Patriots No Huddle a part of your New England Patriots coverage on a weekly basis. The best is yet to come here, folks. Continue, subscribe to our channel on Pats Fans for YouTube, and of course, follow us on Spotify and get us wherever you get your podcasts to make sure that you get the latest episode of Patriots No Huddle as soon as it's available. On behalf of Steve Balistreri, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Patriots No Huddle.